Okay, looks like it's 7 o'clock when we get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Why don't we do a pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Let me do a roll call. I guess heading this way, I got Molly, Justice, George, Paloma, Randan. Are we missing anyone? The city administrator is out today, and we have a representative from our city attorney. So, hey, Drew.
Hey, guys.
Anyone online with the city? Don't think so. All right. First thing we do is public hearings. And we've done roll call. So the first part of that is public comment. You can talk about any topic unless that's one of the topics in a public hearing. There are 3 public hearings. So if you want to talk about the budget, the community development block grant funding, or a local parking law, hold your comments until we hold those public hearings. So for any other topic, you can talk for up to 3 minutes. We have a long list today, so welcome everyone. The only request I would make is if you could make it shorter, we can fit more people in, because the way this sets up is we have about 30 minutes to do comments up front, and then we'll go to our business, and then there'll be a second opportunity for public comments after that. And it would be nice to get everyone who's here early, so if you don't want to wait, you can go home. So that would be my only encouragement. And let's start on the list of signups. I've got Donna Minkowitz first. Can you just tell us your name and where you live?
Good evening. My name is Donna Minkowitz, and I live in Ward 1. I'm here to speak in favor of the gas-free buildings bill and to thank council members Dan Imar Blair and Paloma Wake for putting it forward. We don't have much time left to take climate action, and this is action we can take right now on the local level that will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 33%. Just the other day, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the world, we are on the highway to climate hell with one foot on the accelerator. We need to have the courage to begin taking our foot off the accelerator. I am someone who will be in my 70s for most of the 2030s and 76 in 2040. I am frightened to be facing old age here in Beacon with what Scenic Hudson and the Times-Union predict will be constant flooding, frequent hurricanes, the inundation of hazardous waste sites, the railroad, and the entire waterfront, and decreased safety of our drinking water. As you know, the last 8 years have been the warmest ever on record. The polar ice caps are melting. What more information do you need to have before you take action? This bill is doable and cost-effective. Far from costing more money, it would save Beacon households an average of $848 per year. I'm calling on the mayor and the council to schedule a public hearing on a bill that bans gas construction in all new buildings, including appliances. Finally, as a citizen who believes in democracy, I want to express my dismay that the mayor has claimed that only he and his staff have the right to propose legislation. These are our city council members, and we elected them to represent us. The New York City Council members and members of every other city council propose legislation all the time, whether or not they have law degrees, amazingly. And it is high time that the mayor acknowledge that every city council member has the right to propose legislation here in Beacon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Will, I can't pronounce it, Lulofs?
You got it. Yeah, my name is Will Lulofs, and I live in Ward 4.
Thank you.
There was a recurrent gas leak on our street in front of our house for about 6 months last year on Masters Place. And between us and our neighbors, we called Central Hudson to report the leak at least a dozen times. And each time they would send a crew to find the leak and try to patch it. One time the crew drilled and jackhammered through the night because the leak was severe enough to warrant that kind of urgency. Other times the response from Central Hudson was less extreme, but the constant smell of methane continued. Eventually, after several months, they successfully stopped the leak, and just a few weeks ago they came and replaced the gas line for the whole street. which our neighbors down the street said hadn't happened in the 15 years that they have lived here, despite other consistent problems, or despite consistent problems with leaks in the past. The reason I'm bringing this up is that our experience is something that anyone with aging gas infrastructure should expect to happen at some point. Even when gas hookups are functioning normally, they leak methane at every point of contact, including in our homes, where having a gas stove increases a child's risk of having asthma by 42%. And if new construction continues to buy into existing gas infrastructure, it will lock those properties in for increased methane emissions for decades. It's on us as a municipality to make this change with the urgency that it demands. This is truly the lowest hanging fruit that we have when it comes to substantially cutting greenhouse gas emissions on the municipal level. And we can't rely on private utilities to move away from fossil fuels. It's not in their short-term interests, and they clearly have their hands full with maintaining existing infrastructure and updating their billing systems. We can't rely solely on public-private partnerships, as we've seen from the Columbia Utilities issue. We can't rely solely on the state government to set the pace, because they're just not moving fast enough. So it's up to us to do what we can to limit the impact of climate change now. And with that in mind, I also urge you to schedule a public hearing to discuss crafting and passing a bill that bans all gas hookups in all new buildings. Thanks very much for giving us the time to speak.
Thank you. Harper Horowitz?
Hi, my name is Harper Horowitz. I live in the town of Beacon, Ward 4. I'm only 15 years old, so the majority of my life is still to come, and I want to be able to happily live the rest of my life knowing that something is being done about climate change rather than it being inevitable. Other generations have been able to grow up and grow old and have their children grow up and grow old, and I believe that my generation deserves that too. We deserve that chance, but if things continue the way they are going, we might not get that chance. This is also very important to me because my brother was very medically fragile and needed a clean environment. Passing the gas-free buildings bill legislation will help create a healthy environment for children, especially immunocompromised ones. But like anything, in order to tackle this huge issue, we must start with smaller actions that will lead to larger ones. This is why I think the gas-free buildings bill is so important. I'm really asking you to vote for this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bruno Gordon? Okay. Elizabeth Ertner?
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Ertner, and I live in Ward 3. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I love living here in Beacon and raising my family here. I really hate missing my kids' bedtime, which I'm doing tonight. Instead of reading stories to them, I'm here with you because I want to be able to tell my kids that I'm doing all I can on the local level to build a better climate future for them and for our entire community. And I'm here tonight because the gas-free new buildings policy will help put us on that path. Allowing new construction to be built with gas hookups locks us into more and more buildings that rely on dirty fossil fuel gas. On the other hand, electricity is getting cleaner and cleaner every year, more sustainable. It's anticipated 70% of New York State's electrical grid will be from renewable sources by 2030 and 100% by 2040. So here in Beacon, instead of forcing us to be locked into decades more of dirty fossil fuels every time a new building goes up or a renovation is done, we have the opportunity to ban gas hookups in all new building projects now. This is really a win-win for everyone because it's better for our health, especially kids who are at risk of asthma or even cancer, studies have shown when they're inhaling pollutants in homes from gas. It's better for our climate, moving us to electricity, which is more sustainable and better in terms of the economics. It doesn't increase construction costs, and it saves homeowners and renters in terms of their monthly bills. I've talked to a few of my neighbors about this. Everyone's been incredibly supportive, and I'm looking to you, Mayor and City Council, to take swift action on this. Please discuss passing a gas-free new buildings bill that bans indoor gas hookups in all new building projects. And really, I don't think a watered-down version with a lot of exceptions is going to cut it here. I think, our community really needs swift, meaningful action to combat climate change. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Patrick Metzger.
Hello, Patrick Metzger from Ward 2. So I've lived in Beacon for 8 years, and I want to speak about the council's proposal for gas-free new buildings in Beacon, which was shared at last week's city council meeting. Thank you, Dan and Paloma. To summarize my thoughts in one short statement, it just makes sense. The proposal will save money. It will protect the health of Beacon's children and adults, and crucially, it helps us do our part in switching away from the fossil fuels that are causing a global climate catastrophe at this very moment. I'm a member of Beacon Climate Action Now. We're a group of over 50 locals who started meeting in the summer of 2022 to act on climate justice issues in our area. Very early in our meeting process, it became clear what our first campaign would be. We wanted Beacon to stop building oil and gas hookups in new construction. We were inspired by New York City and Ithaca, cities that have both passed similar legislation. This felt like a realistic goal that we could achieve in partnership with you, the Beacon City Council, and our mayor. I won't speak too long on the efficiency, the affordability, public health hazards. You've heard about how members of our group go every day smelling gas on their streets, and we know that gas leaks benzene in the home, which is, putting Beacon's children at risk. And every day, 14,000 people die from the effects of runaway climate change. So every building we make with this outdated technology is a nail in the coffin of each child who becomes another victim of climate change. For Beacon Climate Action Now, this campaign is our first priority. Over the last few months, we've knocked on hundreds of doors, tabled at local events like the Farmers Market and Spirit of Beacon Day, doing our best to educate the community about the many benefits of all-electric buildings. We put on Taproots, a day-long festival at the Yard, which brought out over 220 people and had raffle prizes from 12 Beacon businesses that were excited to show their support. Which brings me to this stack of petitions. These pages contain the signatures of over 411 Beacon residents who have signed on to a letter which I'll read to you now. Dear Mayor Kyriakou and City of Beacon council members, we urge you to take bold climate action by passing legislation to prohibit all new homes and buildings from using oil and gas indoors starting no later than 2024. Doing so would improve our community's air quality, protect children's health, and create good jobs building a green economy.
15 seconds.
So for all of us in the community that you were elected to represent, please listen. And I urge you to schedule a public hearing to discuss crafting and passing a gas-free new buildings bill that bans indoor gas hookups in all new buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Martin Lozada?
Hello, good evening. My name is Martin Lozada. I too am 15 and have most of my life left. And I feel that it's important that we, take action about our climate and really take notice that it's deteriorating and we have to make some difference. I really feel that by passing this bill, Beacon can be part of the driving force that helps bring our state and even our country, which could lead to our world, into an era built solely off of green energy. And I think by passing this bill, we can start pushing our state and our country forward here. I've helped gathered signatures for this petition, and I've seen the support that it has. I've seen people saying, yes, this is really important, and I really feel that it's something that would really greatly benefit Beacon and would greatly benefit the state in the long term. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tara Vamos from Cold Spring.
Hi there, my name is Tara Vamos. I'm from Cold Spring, so it's a neighboring community, but I've been there for 20 years and I'm in and out of Beacon a lot. I've worked in Beacon. And I work on climate issues on a state level. And I wanted to commend the City of Beacon for being one of the first communities to pass a resolution opposing the Dan Scammer power plant expansion. New York State did follow through by denying Dan Scammer's air permit, but it was one of those cases where the state really needed a push of seeing local communities come forward and be in support of them taking action against interests that had a lot of money behind them and a lot of lobbying power. Just as a side note, induction cooktops are amazing. I wanted to make sure that before I was telling people about them, that I had checked them out, and a friend of mine had one, and seeing her fry an egg on a cast iron pot without having to wait for it to heat up was mind-blowing. They boil water so much faster than regular cooktops. I could not afford to get a new stove right at the moment, but I did get a countertop induction burner that I use every day, and it's fabulous. If I was moving into new construction now, and I found out after I moved in that for the same price, I could have had an induction stove and heat pumps that did not pollute my home, I would be furious. This is a basic consumer protection issue, besides the climate issues, which are enormous and really important that we don't keep digging a hole in the same way. It's also just a basic consumer protection. Like, why would you continue to use something that does cause indoor air pollution when you don't have to? And when for the same price you can have something that will cost you less on your utility bills, it will cost all of us in Central Hudson's territory less, because we will not, on each of our bills, have to pay for the gas line hookups going to those new buildings that are being constructed. So those are some of the reasons why I think you should look at and figure out the wording that you can go with and pass something that forbids gas hookups to new construction. And I also just wanted to briefly touch on the fact that the reason why you might have some lingering sense of gas
15
being
seconds.
good or something like that is that $200,000 was spent lobbying New York State about gas, like in favor of gas companies. Fossil fuel companies are making so much money, and they are spending it on advertising to tell all of you that gas is just fine and that it's better for the environment. It is a flat-out lie, but the advertising works well. You hear it all the time, but it is lies. There's a suit in New York City against the gas companies for misleading the public for the same sort of thing. So thank you. Please consider legislation.
Thank you. Again, we still got a long list, so if you can be shorter, that's great for others. Julie Winterbottom.
Hello, my name is Julie Winterbottom, and I live in Ward 1. And I too would like to comment tonight on the gas-free new buildings legislation. Like many people, I frequently feel a sense of panic and despair when I read about the increasingly dire effects of climate change. This past summer, I didn't have to read about the effects. I could see and hear them from my backyard. The green ridge I look out on turned a sickly brown from the drought, and the usual chorus of insects was barely audible. But this summer, something else happened. My despair turned to hope when I heard about the gas-free new buildings bill. I learned that we can take impactful action to address climate change right now, right here in Beacon. Here's why this bill is so important to me, and as I discovered from talking to many of my neighbors, important to many Beaconites. It packs a powerful environmental punch. 1/3 of all greenhouse gases in New York State come from burning fossil fuels to heat and cool. By banning new gas hookups, we lock in lower methane emissions far into the future. This is especially impactful given that leaked methane warms the planet more than 80 times as much as the same amount of carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. The bill makes economic sense. The upfront costs and long-term utility costs of electrification are equivalent or in some cases lower than gas-powered buildings. It's a public health win, as you've already heard. I myself was shocked to learn that gas in a home exposes residents to dangerous pollutants, including cancer-causing benzene, a chemical for which there is no safe level, according to a professor quoted in the New York Times. How can we not take action to protect people from a substance such as that? I am very grateful to Dan, to Paloma, and to Thomas Wright for the countless hours they have spent researching and writing this bill. We are the lucky beneficiaries of their energy and expertise. I urge the rest of the council and the mayor to build on their work by scheduling a public hearing and working collaboratively and quickly to pass a bill that bans indoor gas hookups in all new buildings. We cannot settle for a watered-down measure. We cannot wait for state or federal or global action. A recent New York Times article reported that the Paris Accord goal of limiting the average global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius is now on life support. It's imperative that municipalities like Beacon take the lead, just as New York City, Ithaca, and dozens of towns across the country have done. We can show the way for the rest of New York State. We can be a beacon of hope. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Randy Casal.
Good evening. Randy Casal, 106 Prospect Street. Question, can I talk about the Youth Academy now, or do I got to wait for the budget?
That's a good question.
I mean, I can wait for the budget for that, but I'm going to talk about something else, too.
Okay.
Right now, I want to talk about our Main Street. We spent millions of dollars to spruce up our Main Street. I know because I'm the one that received the grant many years ago to do the bump outs and do the Main Street over. We got signs highlighting our crosswalks. We got 2-hour parking. We got one-way signs. I see no enforcement on Main Street of any of the traffic issues. I heard our attorney the other night say he'd have to check about U-turns. Under New York State traffic law, you can't cross a double yellow line. So if you make a U-turn, you're crossing a double yellow line. It happens every day, multiple times on Main Street. It causes congestions. People are parked 20 inches from the curb, so they're blocking half the travel lane. They park outside our bump outs and put their flashers on like that makes it okay to do. They park in no parking areas, and I see no enforcement on Main Street. I suggest we get a dedicated force out there to enforce the laws, at least for a month, to get people back on track how to drive in this city on our Main Street, because it's getting dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. If you do want to talk about a budget item, so just wait until the hearing on budgets. It's the very next item, so it won't be very long to wait, so thank you. Brian Mandel.
Hello, I am Brian Mandel. I live in Ward 3. I am here to speak in support of the gas ban on new development in Beacon that the council discussed last week. I've decided to spare you the details of my own Central Hudson horror stories, but I think we can all agree that having a company like that in charge of infrastructure as important as gas is not the best idea. But I wanted to talk about how I see this bill as a huge opportunity for the city of Beacon to become a leader on climate issues. And I hope that the mayor and the city council also agrees and sees that opportunity. This is a common sense solution that only really inconveniences and hurts people who profit off of fossil fuels. The city's natural beauty is its greatest resource. I think we've all, over the past couple of years, seen the extreme weather events and other obvious signs of climate change. I know that would be easy for us to wait for the state government or the federal government to take similar action, but I think we all know that we all have to play a part in this, whether it's as individuals or as a municipality. Thank you for your time. I urge you guys to take this up and pass it and seize this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pete Bailey.
Hi everyone, Pete Bailey, Ward 3. I'm also here to voice support in electrifying new construction in Beacon. The state, as well as sort of the energy markets, manage the energy mix: hydro, solar, wind, nuclear, and gas. When you use electricity to heat your home, the energy markets decide what is generating that heat. And this is becoming increasingly renewable as more clean generation sources plummet in cost. However, if your home runs on gas, you do not have these alternative options, which increase the gas supply and delivery in the state. If you take a look at your Central Hudson bill, on the off chance that it is correct, you'll notice that gas supply and delivery is the costliest part. Electric heat is much, much cheaper and will continue to drop in price as more renewables come online. Many people this evening have noted indoor air quality caused by gas stoves. I think similarly to lead paint and dozens of other environmental health hazards in the past, future Beaconites will look back and wonder what we were thinking using gas combustion within our homes at all. So let's not lock us into decades and decades more of gas in our homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kenya Gadsden? All right, so we'll do that in just a couple of minutes, if that's okay. David Giamma? Okay, so very good. We'll get to you in just a minute, all right? Thomas Wright.
Good evening, Thomas Wright, 24 Grove Street. I guess that's Ward 3. I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for all the work they do for this community. Given this work, I've decided to limit myself to one takeaway, and that is electrification. Words are important. Language has power. The language around the climate emergency is complicated. On the one hand, increasingly dramatic language gets our attention. Climate emergency, existential crisis, code red for humanity, and highway to climate hell. On the other hand, without action, we become deadened to the language that is meant to motivate. Of course, electrification isn't the only action. Decarbonization is essential. We must decarbonize our electric grid by increasing the amount of electricity coming from renewables. Beacon is making real progress in regards to decarbonization. In its resolution of April 2021, Beacon stated a commitment to climate action to source zero-emission electricity for the city of Beacon sooner than the New York State plans. This is amazing because the New York plans to get to 70% renewables by 2030 and 100% zero-emission electricity by 2040. But the hitch with decarbonization is that you can't deliver renewables to machines that burn fossil fuels. You can't use solar power on fossil gas furnaces. You can't use wind power on gas-fired hot water heaters. There is, of course, a solution to this problem: electrification. Electrify the machines that heat our homes and businesses, heat our water, and cook our food, and you create real action on solving the climate crisis. It also eliminates the highly volatile toxic pollutants that fossil gas brings to our homes and saves us a lot of money in the process. And here again, Beacon is showing leadership. The new Tompkins Firehouse will be 100% electric. Cities like Ithaca have committed to electrifying the entire city. And New York City has banned fossil gas in new construction, which is another way of saying that all new construction must be electrified. The goal of the legislation concept that council members Aymar, Blair, and Wake presented on November 14th is to create a mechanism for accelerated electrification. It is a way to take action on the climate crisis by saying that new and newly renovated buildings in Beacon will be electric and able to receive 100% zero-emission electricity. Clearly, crafting gas-free new building legislation will require careful work by you, the city administrator and the city attorney. I and many other residents of Beacon feel that this is work that needs to be done and in a time frame demanded by the climate crisis. Remember, through electrification, Beacon can achieve climate action now. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Jesse Van Amber.
Good evening. My name is Jessie Van Amberg. I'm a Ward 4 resident, and I'm here tonight to share my support of the proposed legislation to ban gas hookups in new construction in Beacon. The climate crisis has been a defining part of my life since I was a little kid growing up in Southern California. We choked on smoggy air, we rationed water at home through drought after drought, and sweated through our Halloween costumes because of October heat waves. I remember one year packing up a bag of clothes 2 days before Christmas, ready to evacuate because a massive wildfire was threatening my entire neighborhood. We were spared, but other folks I know weren't so lucky and lost their homes. But the climate crisis is not just a California problem, it's not just a West Coast problem, it's a problem everywhere. Just look at the terrible drought and intense heat waves we had this summer. If we do nothing, that's what every summer will be like. I don't want that, and I'm sure you don't want that for your future too. That's why it's so important to take action right now to protect our future. So I'm urging you to schedule a public hearing to discuss crafting and passing a gas-free new buildings bill that bans indoor gas hookups in all new buildings. Keeping fossil fuels out of new buildings is a small step that will have big impacts on the health and well-being of our community. It'll protect children living in those new buildings from developing asthma and prevent new fossil fuel infrastructure from leaking pollutants into our groundwater and air. It'll help our neighbors save money on their energy bills since electricity prices are more stable than gas or oil. And by being the first city in the Hudson Valley to pass a law like this, we can be a leader in the region on climate policy and push the state to reconsider a statewide bill. I urge you to move forward with this policy now and give us all the more reason to be proud to live in this beautiful city we call home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Stephen, is it Lori? I'm going to get through everyone on this list, and then I'm going to go to the next public hearing. But I'm not going to do the ones online. I'm just letting you know the people online are home. They can wait a little longer, and I'd like to get everyone here to be able to speak. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, my name is Stephen Corey. I'm a resident of Ward 2. I've come to support the Gas-Free Beacon initiative. And, I grew up here in the Hudson Valley, and I feel and have seen and felt the climate changing around us. I feel the effects every year, and I see solutions provided out there, things that we know that can be done, and at every level they're kicked down the road. I think that we know that natural gas, and especially the delivery of natural gas, is a terrible greenhouse gas emitter. And why would we not prevent or sign up for this problem to be continued for 30 or 40 more years? When we know that preventing these hookups would stop the problem as soon as today. If we don't act to do this now, when will we do it? And additionally, the situation will only get worse and worse as we keep moving the needle down the road. So I've decided that I needed to come and speak with you all as well to take some action to make sure that we pass this bill. And so I urge you to discuss this legislation and have public hearings or whatever needs to happen to pass this for Beacon, because I know that we can be a climate leader, and I would be very proud of Beacon if we can do that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mark Unger? Yep. And then Martin Fowler.
If I'm last, I can wait until the second.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Martin. You're not going anywhere, right? Okay. So I'm going to call it that's more than 30 minutes. For those who are on line and want to speak, we'll pick you up in the second part. I would like to go to the next one, which is to open the public hearing on the 2023 budget. I'm looking for a motion and a second to do that.
Motion
Second.
to open the public hearing on the budget.
So that was Molly and Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so we've opened the public hearing on the budget. Just to give you the quick version of it. Oh, Susan, are you online?
I am here.
Okay. You want me to do the quick version, or do you want to do something on the budget?
You can do it if you'd like.
Let's see if I've got it.
Okay.
So the proposed budget is the one that the mayor puts forward. We put forward that budget. The summary version of it is there is an increase in the total tax levy equal to new construction. And what that means in layman's terms is that for all the new properties coming on, they get to contribute at the same tax rate that current residents do, and that new residents don't have an overall, on average, increase this year. That keeps us below the state tax cap, and that has allowed us to allocate some additional funds due to increased sales tax revenue. So the hearing tonight is going through any of the components of that budget that you may feel obliged to discuss. Susan, do you want to add anything?
There was only one slight change to the tentative roll of assessments, which decreased the assessments for Homestead. So the 2023 Homestead proposed tax rate is 6.214, and the non-Homestead is still 10.68.
Okay. So I'll open up the public hearing for any discussion on any items in the budget. And we'll start down the list, and it's Randy. Thank you.
Good evening. Randy Cassell, 106 Prospect Street. I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for the work they do. I know how hard it is to put a budget together. I'm here to speak on the Police Youth Academy, the $4,000. When I became mayor of the city, the police were under DOJ watch. Lee must know because it started while he was on council. And we kind of worked hard to clean up everything, and one of the things was community involvement. I got volunteers to start a Police Youth Academy, which now is in its 6th year, which many people have been through. Over 100 people been through it. And right now, some of them are turning 21. I believe 2 or 3 of them are already in the police fields. I believe we got a dispatcher here that started in the thing. It's a great program to teach kids leadership skills, a community, how the police work, what they need to do to train to become a police officer, and give them a career avenue. I urge this council to keep this program, and the $4,000 is to pay for bus trips. They take the kids on bus trips to courts, to a simulation to show where police work, has to make quick decisions. They buy lunch for the kids for the whole week. It's a great step-in program, which leads some of our kids in our community to a program that I'd love to get started in this community, which they have in the town of Fishkill, which is the Fishkill Cadet Program, which has been going for over 50 years. And many, many of our residents have gone through that program, including my stepson, who went on to become a police officer. Timmy Dexter Jr. is the fire chief over in the city of Newburgh. Chuck Pizzanelli is the captain of the Metro North. So these programs are great programs for a good police-community relationship, and I urge you to leave the $4,000 in the budget. Thank you, and thank you for your work.
Thank you. Kenya? I'm sorry? Sure. Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Unger. I'm in Ward 4, and I'm co-chair of the Beacon Police Advisory Committee, and also wanted to support maintaining the $4,000 for the Beacon Youth Police Academy, and also to have this be part of a greater engagement by the city in building citizen community, police community relations. As you all know, last year the city adopted a Beacon Police Modernization Program, which mandated the city to take action on 10 different areas, which all have broad support from the community and from the police themselves, including more data, transparency, more accountability, more diversity in the police force, more transparency in patrols, and other items that were detailed in the report. Our committee was created to advance those goals, which have been limited because of budget limits, COVID, the police is understaffed, et cetera. So in addition to the Beacon Police Youth Academy, which is crucial in showing young people the real work of the courts, the prisons, the police, I think it's important that it be part of a larger program in the future for Beacon to engage in some of the proposals that we have developed in the committee, walk-alongs between the police and citizens, a much more transparent evaluation of mental health services available to Beacon residents by the county. What are the gaps? What are the needs of Beaconites? More public information, expanding the Youth Academy for more discussions among young people about other issues in policing, violence, racism, and other issues that are important to young people, more community events, and more support for recruitment, so for young people to take the civil service exam and other educational support. Thank you.
Thank you. Kenya.
Good evening, Kenya Gadsden. What Mark didn't tell you guys is that we also emailed you the letter, so all of you should be in possession of the letter. So my name is Kenya Gadsden. I actually live in Fishkill, but I am a proud member of the Beacon Advisory Police Committee here in Beacon. And I want to tell you that the program is something that we now get to see the fruits of our loins. Some of us plant trees and they never grow up to be what they're supposed to be. But with this program that even one of my children participated in, we are now seeing some of the young people that live in Beacon that are now becoming police officers, that are now working as your dispatchers. And so therefore, you guys are the example of growing your own. And that's very important. As someone who used to sit on the Beacon City School Board and advocate for this very program, I also advocate for growing your own, teachers, growing your own gardeners, growing what your community needs so that the people stay here, they stay vested in the community, and they grow with it. This police academy is allowing you to do that, and guess what? You can actually see the proof of that in the people that are now currently trying to apply to work here in Beacon and those that are actually working here in Beacon. What I have to tell you is that the YPI program that you were going to invest in, that $4,000, the committee thought that it was not in the best interest of Beacon to continue that. So if the $4,000 already existed for the YPI program, it makes no sense not to allocate those $4,000 to the Beacon Police Academy. If any of you have any questions of us as members of the advisory committee, please, I'll give you my name, I'll give you my email, because it is integral that you understand all the components that go into this. The other part of that is that there was a commitment through DCJS to create something at the time so that Beacon can be in compliance. Now, we're not saying that the Beacon Police Academy was it. However, that is what was given. And so therefore, at the time for Beacon to become compliant, the Beacon Police Academy was introduced, and then it started to continue. So it continued at the efforts of the leaders that now lead the program. And so therefore, if you are required to have something and you already have it and you know that it is working, that I don't understand why there would be any hesitation to allocate this $4,000 to the program. As Mark said, it allows for them to go out into the community, it allows them to have outreach, and I'm going to tell you, it extends further than $4,000. They actually will raise funds to continue to grow the program because they don't want the youth to actually experience the same thing year after year. There is vision for this program. The vision is that we grow it through neighboring and partnering with our schools, put it with BOCES, who has a criminal justice program, and really enhance something that will allow us to have what Fishkill has. Your residents are now going to Fishkill to receive their cadet program, when Beacon right now has good soil where they can grow their own police cadets and police academy. So I challenge all of you, I know all of you, I ask you to please understand what you're voting on, understand the facts, and please vote to keep the $4,000 in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. David Giamma, if you're still here. I think he may have left. Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like, in the physical audience, who'd like to speak on the budget? Okay. Ben, is there anyone in the virtual audience who wants to talk on the budget?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're calling in by phone, you can press *9, and when called upon, you will need to press *6 to unmute. If you're watching and joining us on YouTube, you will need to join the Zoom by visiting Beacon NY for a link. Right now we have 2 hands raised, the first of which is Arthur Kamens.
Hi, everyone. No, I want to speak on the, in the general public comment, not on the budget.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Would you mind lowering your hand just until we get back to the second round? Because I'll be going through the hands raised on Zoom for that.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. The next hand raised we have on Zoom is Vikas Ashoka. And that hand is down now as well. So it looks like we have no hands raised on Zoom at the moment.
Okay. Not hearing anyone else.
Or I see Vikas's hand is up again. I just want to clarify, Vikas, I'm going to give you permission to talk in case you do want to speak on the budget.
Hi, yeah, sorry about that, Ben. I was trying to unmute and then click that button. Yes, I would just like to speak on this, the police training for children. I think my question for you all on City Council is how many parents are actually asking for this and not folks who are associated with the police department? I would venture to guess, based on at least all the parents I know, that they would much prefer to have funds spent on children's activities that are enriching outside of the police department in Beacon. That's my only comment there.
Thank you. All right. Oh, that's on the budget? Okay. All right.
Trying to get better at this with the mic. So thank you all. Happy early holiday.
Tell us your name and where you live.
Rachel Rifkind, 10 River Ridge. So I would just like to say, I think policing is a beautiful thing. And to make the education to the young people who want to do this, I believe in that. And then we have tax money. I see 5, it's right by the tourism booth. I'm going off topic, I'm sorry. But there's like 5, we can't even do that. There's 5, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. But I just believe in policing, and Beacon needs it. And if you just look at, in terms of our budget, so you have 5, those 5 blue things by the tourism. 2 of them reminds me that are not fixed, that I need my tetanus shot. That's the bottom line.
Okay.
So why can't we paint those or redo those?
Okay. Let's just stick to budget, and we'll get to that one.
And then let's get policing right here, because you don't want to be New York City. You don't want to have all these people that are just riding their motorcycles. What you want is a peaceful environment. And let's get the younger with education. And I don't think it made sense, but thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public audience? All right. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the budget.
Motion to second.
So that was Ren and George. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, I'll entertain a motion to open second public hearing on the community development block grant funding.
Motion to open a public hearing on the community block grant.
Second.
So that's Justice and Molly, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so let me give just a quick summary of what this one's about. So there are funds, I think they're federal, called the Community Development Block Grant Program. The funds are allocated at the county level. It's HUD funding that comes, and it's supposed to be steered toward low and moderate income residents. Each year the county opens up applications for funding. and we have to hold a public hearing as part of that process. The county scores and encourages infrastructure projects for awards, and traditionally we have done infrastructure such as water, sewer, sidewalks into areas that are low and moderate income as measured by census tracts. So this is just a public hearing to receive any input on any such projects, and if one has any input, this would be the time to raise it. So if there's anyone who'd like to speak on this subject in the physical audience, come on up or let me know. Okay. And I'll give you an example. So this year, what we used those funds for were the South Avenue sidewalks by the basketball courts. Right, that's an area that is eligible for that funding, and we used it to redo the sidewalks. All right. Anyone, Ben, online?
We have one hand raised online. That's Vikas Ashoka. Vikas, did you want to speak on this public hearing as well? I'm not hearing any response, so I think we can move forward.
Okay, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So that's Ren and Dan, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed?
Lee, I have a clarifying question. Is there an opportunity, would it be this year or next year, we would actually discuss what we would want to use those funds for? I'm just curious what the next step is for this program.
I think we've put in our applications, but if you wanted to review what we would do them for, we can certainly, I thought we'd bring them here. That's what I thought we do.
Yeah. Yes, true. That's usually what happens. It'll be discussed here.
So we will be discussing it in workshop before we submit them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. So the third public hearing is, this is, let me read it in full, it's so exciting. Public hearing for a proposed local law to amend Chapter 211 of the Code of the City of Beacon concerning stop signs on South Brett Street and parking on West Church Street. So this is a public hearing on some stop signs on South Brett and on West Church. Can I get a motion second to open this hearing?
Motion to open public hearing on stop signs, or to amend Chapter 211 of the City of Beacon Code and talk about stop signs on South Brett and West Church Street.
Second.
So that's Justice and Molly, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
And
Bandy?
Mayor, I'm sorry, there's a second part of it is also the amending the no parking zones on West Church Street.
Okay. And Ben, are you going to give us the quick view of this?
Yes, I am happy to do so. For those of you who are not sick of hearing this from me in the last two meetings, I staff the Traffic and Safety Committee, so I take the minutes, and I was also involved in hearing about the discussion on these matters. Would the council like me to pull up the memorandum again one more time?
I think it would be good for the public, Ben.
Absolutely. Pulling it up now. So essentially, the committee has recommended a couple of changes to the city code with regards to traffic laws, as the mayor and Drew have already indicated. The first of which is changing the intersection of South Brett and Beacon Street to a four-way stop rather than a two-way stop. This had a number of community members reached out to the committee about this issue separately, and the committee unanimously voiced their support for doing this. This is a little diagram of the new and existing stop signs. And the second item that we're bringing before you today is to update the parking restrictions at the intersection of West Church and Cross Street. This was brought up by the fire chief regarding concerns of access for our larger fire trucks. They went out and measured it, and we needed about 50 feet on the north end along West Church Street. And otherwise, the restrictions that are marked as existing would be staying in place untouched. This is just, hopefully, gives you a holistic view of what that intersection looks like in terms of parking law. And if Drew wants to add anything, I'm sure she is more than able to clarify anything that I've left vague.
Okay. Anyone like to speak on those two sets of changes? This is your opportunity to do so. And not seeing anyone in the public audience, anyone on the virtual side, Ben?
We have Vikas Ashoka's hand raised. If Vikas would like to speak on this, no, the hand is down, so no one on Zoom.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
So that's Ren and George, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. That handles the public hearings. Let's do reports. You want to start, Dan, and we'll go this way?
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, let's see. First thing up, I just want to thank everybody for coming to the Ward 4 Community Forum yesterday at the Memorial Building. We had a great discussion about a lot of topics, but specifically we were talking about safe streets. And I heard a lot. From the public, very much in the same vein that the former mayor was talking about, is that we need more enforcement. But I just want to thank Yvette Valdez-Smith, Minority Leader of the County Legislature, for joining and speaking to us about what's going on at the county. And I also want to thank Justice Paloma and Molly for attending as well. I also want to say tonight that I really appreciated hearing from young people about climate change, but I'm always glad to hear from young people about anything. We don't get many young people in here speaking in public, and I am always really excited to see young people finding their power. And lastly, there's a newly paved basketball court at Green Street Park. The Highway Department managed to fit it into their schedule at the end of milling and paving this month, and just please be patient. There's some cleanup that still needs to be done, which is common for this time of year. So there is a pile of pavement that needs to be dug up and brought out. Don't worry, it'll be done soon. And painting stripes on the basketball court needs yet to be done. And lastly, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanks, Dan. Last March, the Human Rights Commission, HRC, presented a year-end report to us that was really helpful, and it detailed an accounting of their accomplishments, goals, and challenges. And I won't go into the details of the report, but among the aims that to this date haven't yet come to pass are developing a resource guide with the city, promoting the commission to the general public on the city website and elsewhere. More, it's there, but they had some aims to clarify, to more widely circulate the community pledge, which again, this is something that they have a broader vision for than what we were able to accomplish this year, and better communication with the city overall. And that last one, I regret not doing more to promote the goals of the HRC, and so I just wanted to announce that in addition to having been their liaison for Pride, I now am going to be their council liaison for the commission overall, but of course, all of us are liaisons for all of the committees, so I know we'll all continue to do that as we always do. But it's really, just an announcement about my commitment to, what they do, which is fostering a community of tolerance, and just making that public. And those 4 that I mentioned are just a few of the aims in their report, but many of the aims that that fell short, I'd like to see if we could try to get to some of those in the short term. So I just wanted to ask my fellow members here to support the goal to quickly address what we can. From their report last year, there's another one that's going to come up soon, and so it would be nice to get some of those resolved before they, have another report with the same unresolved goals. And also for the public who are interested in serving your community, please do reach out to me for more information, and any of us for more information on the HRC or any of the committees. With open positions, you can call me at 845-275-3828 or wlongno@beaconny.gov. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Ren. I'm not sure if you said this, but if someone does want to sign on to the community pledge, it can be found at bit.ly/HRC pledge. I've signed it. I hope everyone on council has signed it. And I encourage anyone else to sign it. For my report, This week, I wanted to express some gratitude to Erin Hadeland and her work with the senior class to move forward their ideas in the participatory budgeting project. I've seen a couple of the proposals, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. We will all hear from this group as a council on December 12th. Also grateful to Maggie Dickinson, who has continued to work on her community quarterly idea of a community care team in Beacon. I had the pleasure of joining a meeting that she hosted this past weekend, and it was inspiring to hear ideas from her and from others in our community who are dedicated to caring for each other. I'd also like to honor Trans Day of Remembrance, which commemorates the lives of trans people lost to anti-trans violence and hatred. This year it was yesterday, Sunday, November 20th. This was also on the eve of really horrific hate crime in Colorado Springs. And I'd like to make a statement in solidarity with the queer community there and all of their allies and those affected by this hate crime and any hate crime. This is also the end of Native American Heritage Month, and I would like to acknowledge that Beacon is situated on the unceded homelands of the Mohican, Munsee, Lenape, Schaghticoke, and Wappinger peoples, whose descendants include the Stockbridge Munsee Band of Mohican Indians in Wisconsin and the Delaware Tribe of Indians in Oklahoma. Our city's welcome sign indicates that Beacon was settled in 1708, although Beacon did not officially become Beacon until 1913. I want to acknowledge that the history of this land and its people is vast and is far longer than this city, though I'm grateful that we are all here now.
Thank you. George? Good evening. Nothing specific to report, but I would just like to say, as we're entering the holiday season, that and I'll probably be reminding you constantly, is to be shopping locally and spending your money as locally as possible, because as we discussed, as people talking here tonight about the climate, sometimes the best thing we can do is on a very local and immediate level. So please take the opportunity this season to shop locally, but more importantly, to give locally. We'll be giving thanks for so much of the things that we have: roof over our head, family, friends, food on our table. But there's many among us in our community that have far less. So please think about them when you decide to give. And hopefully it goes beyond the season as well. So thank you. Enjoy your holiday.
I want to let people know that if you'd like to schedule a meeting with me at any time, you can just go to my web link. It's linktr.ee/JUSTICEMCCRAY. And if you see me on the street or in Key Foods or at the farmer's market, on the train, out and about, please, and you want to talk about any of the issues, I'm more than happy to stop and talk. And I just want to reiterate that, like, my door is almost always open. It's always open. But yeah, please feel free to reach out to me anytime with things that are going on in your neighborhood in Ward 2, and I want to do what I can to help and support. One thing that I saw that I wanted to bring public attention to is next Thursday, December 1st, there is a free suicide prevention, intervention, and awareness training at the Desmond Fish Public Library in Garrison, New York. I know that's not in Beacon, but it's open to people in Beacon, and I'm sharing this because over 45,000 people died by suicide in the United States in 2020, which adds up to one death every 11 minutes by suicide, which is a lot. And winter and the holiday season can be particularly challenging for a lot of people, and I know that our community has been directly impacted by suicide more than once. So I just want to make sure that everybody here has the tools that they need, and I want to encourage everybody with the capacity to learn steps for prevention, intervention, and awareness. And you can find more information on that at desmondfishlibrary.org. And then I guess on another somber note, Paloma has already mentioned this, but over the weekend there was a mass shooting at Club Q in Colorado that caused the injuries of 18 people and 5 deaths. This act of violence against queer people isn't an isolated incident, but rather an escalation of unrelenting attacks across the country, heightened by public figures and other loud and powerful voices. And it's, I'm sorry, I'm feeling very emotional about this, but this isn't even the first LGBTQ plus targeted mass shooting in my lifetime, and I'm not that old. It is exhausting to know that at any moment in this country, somebody is willing to go out of their way to take your life out of hatred for your existence because of identities that you didn't choose. And it's exhausting to be expected to function and to keep moving forward as you mourn the lives of your own reflection, of people who died way too young. It is exhausting to watch so many heartbreaking events happening again and again throughout my lifetime. So tonight, I have an ask for the public, but for my community in Beacon, we need more than thoughts and prayers. Your LGBTQ plus friends, neighbors, and family need to feel some semblance of safety, and they need to know that they're loved. So I ask that you show up in whatever ways you know how, whatever ways you can, and let them know that they are cared for and that they're loved. That's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Justice. I have a couple of moments that I'm going to take what Paloma used and use the language of gratitude. I'm grateful for everyone who came forward to talk publicly about their support for us looking at our current building code standards and if we want to adjust them to encourage more electrification of our buildings. I appreciate both the public hearing and also the conversation. We had our last workshop at City Council. I thought it was a very productive conversation, and the conversations that I've had with the local community members as well. I want to express gratitude too for the people who I've reached out to about their own experiences in the buildings that they've developed as well, and their ability to continue the conversation with us and be part of that as well. I want to express gratitude for the members of Ward 1 who have reached out about the possibility of closing some of the key streets that are a-hoppin' around Halloween. They reached out in the mode of street safety, as Dan said, it was talked about at the Ward 4 meeting, and these conversations are just starting. I'm starting with reaching out to anyone around Ward 1 or really anywhere in Beacon who's impacted by this. If you're not already aware, the East and West Willow are the center of some of the Halloween action in Beacon, but it might extend beyond that as well. And I'm going to also be talking to the city and the police department as well about the possibility of this and what might be there. So if you're listening and have any thoughts about this experience, any beliefs about what we should or shouldn't do, please do reach out and share. We have several months, but I would like to try to make some progress on this before we get too close to next year's celebrations. I want to express appreciation for the fire department and talking with the residents of West Church and Cross Street about how to make sure they have the access to get through and also minimize the parking impacts there, which already gets very crowded, particularly as so much happens on Main Street. And lastly, I want to express gratitude for Mark and Kenya coming to talk to us today about the Police Advisory Committee's work, and I'm hoping that in not too long from now that we can have a more detailed discussion with them, with the full council and the public. And that's it, and I'll pass it to you, Mayor.
Thank you all. I'm very appreciative of the comments of the council. I'll be very brief. There's been lots of discussion today. I'm very appreciative of all the people who spoke on various issues. In particular, on climate change, I just want to add that the resolutions in opposition to Dan Scammer for this council were written by me. I made multiple public presentations in opposition to the Dan Scammer proposed power plant, and that was successful. The resolution that the City Council did a couple years ago on achieving the climate smart goals sooner than the state was also affected by my proposal that we do it sooner rather than we try to do more than the state could do. And the reason that we adopted that was the view that achieving something sooner was, without knowing exactly how to do it, was probably more possible than achieving more than the state had already targeted. And I'm just looking forward to figuring out how we achieve those goals sooner. A lot of it is picking the smart approach to going about doing this. And I'm just looking for enough data. And we've made some requests to, for instance, NYSERDA and others to kind of give us information on what's the best way to kind of go about doing this sooner. And I trust that the council will figure out how to do something that works and is effective and is data-driven. So thank you all. That's all I've got. Let's do local laws and resolutions unless City Attorney wants to say anything.
No, I don't have anything to add. Thank you for having me in person tonight. It's really great to see you all face to face.
Yeah, it is nice to see you in person, Drew. Thank you. All right, so let's do our local laws and resolutions. The first one is appointing Jerome Burton to the position of police officer. Can I get a motion and a second on that?
Motion.
Second.
So George and Molly. Chief, do you want to introduce him and say something?
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time tonight. I know you're busy. I just want to reintroduce you to Jerome Burton. I'm here to recommend him for the position of police officer here in the city of Beacon. Just a little background on Jerome. He's 23 years old. He's attended the Beacon Youth Academy 2 years straight. He's a graduate from Beacon High School. He's participated in the ride-along program we have here in Beacon with the police department. He has 40 credits with Dutchess Community College. He's currently working for Hudson Valley Cleaning and Right Source Cleaning. He's also worked at Sam's Club as a tire technician and at Giacomo's Pizza as a delivery person. He's passed a lengthy background that we've conducted on Jerome. He's passed a physical agility test, a polygraph, a psychological exam, a criminal history check, a check with past employers, checked on any current or past domestic relationships, a financial history check, a medical exam. We give a very thorough background to anyone we're going to hire. We meet all the laws under New York State, any standard under New York State division, DCJS, any standards under New York State accreditation. Actually, New York State accreditation was just out in September, going over our background checks and our policies, because there were some changes in the law last year, but we had already met them, and that wasn't a problem. So Jerome's he's born and raised in Beacon. He has friends and family in Beacon, and now he's looking to serve the community that he grew up in.
Okay. Council, ready to vote?
I'm going to abstain from this vote, and I know what an abstention means. Thank you.
Okay. So all in favor of appointing Jerome Burton to the position of police officer, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And I believe there's one abstention, right? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You want to shake hands?
Do we have to swear him in?
Not tonight, but we got to do that later.
Okay.
Good.
If you want to come up, yeah, absolutely. And I'll swear you in when you're ready. All right. Thank you so much for doing the work and kind of getting through all the process.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Hands are very dry.
Okay. Second one is also an appointment. We're appointing Christine Marino to the position of senior account clerk typist. Okay. Let's give him a minute. Thank you all for being here.
That was so nice.
So I'm looking for a motion and a second for appointing Christine Marino to senior account clerk typist.
Motion.
Second.
George and, okay, Paloma. Any discussion? Okay, we had this discussion in workshop. Christine works in the front office here, and it's a promotion. She's done a great job. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. Third one is a motion and a second to adopt the proposed 2023 budget.
Motion.
Second.
So that's Molly and George. Any discussion? I think there was one change from the budget that was an omission that we wanted to add Do we have to add that in by an amendment, or is that?
No, I thought it was updated this afternoon.
Okay.
Was that?
It is updated. There doesn't need to be a motion or anything to change it.
Okay.
Right, because that's what's in the packet tonight.
Right, so there was two changes. One was an omission of a salary, and the second was a change to increase the participatory budgeting.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on it? Okay. We don't need to do a roll call vote. We can do a voice vote.
For the budget, I
Shall-
think you have to do a roll call.
Should we take a roll call?
Yeah, take a roll call.
All right. So let's do a roll call vote on the budget. Let's start with Molly.
Aye.
And then Justice, and we'll go around the room.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
Okay. So next one down.
Sorry, can I just say one thing about the Police Youth Academy?
Oh, yes.
I know because lots of discussion about it, both here publicly and then previous meetings. I would like, and I still have some questions about it. So as I mentioned in my comment about bringing the Police Advisory Committee here, both about that academy as well and what its purpose is and value, and make sure that it's well positioned to do that. And also there was some discussion of, do other departments want or need that, like what the heads think. So that's something I would like to make sure that we're not losing as we approve this budget, but make sure we're continuing to think about that for the future.
All right. You just provided input to a couple of members of the Police Advisory, so thank you.
Great.
There's a draft that's being sent back to you shortly. It's just in the final process of putting some pieces together. And that'll be, for you to look at. I think there's still some pieces to go, but I think there's a pretty good draft of things that you've kind of talked through over the time. So, and it's a lesson that I've learned, which is anytime there's a significant written document, we need to get professional paid help to do it. This one's being done by Ben, and that's kind of has to be done in spare time. So, and we had a draft from one of the members of your committee. So. But thank you for
Ben's paid, right?
Yeah, but it's like we all got other things to do. So, and it's hard work because you got to take a long document and try to kind of make it fit together correctly. I had to do, which one did I do? No, the EO203 was done by Chris. It was the Natural Resources Inventory. And it's like a lot of people put time into it, but just putting the pieces together just takes some work. So I appreciate the patience on it, but we'll get there. Fourth item is the local law regarding stop signs at South Brett and parking on West Church Street. Can I get a motion at second on that?
Motion.
Second.
That's Paloma and Wren. Any discussion on those two places?
I have a question, and I appreciate that the fire chief isn't here right now. I happen to be out, and I talked to some neighbors this weekend, so I actually don't have any issues with supporting what is. I was wondering about, there doesn't seem to be any gap between the stop sign and the end of the street as you head north on Cross Street. And my question was whether or not fire trucks ever need to make a turn from Cross onto West Church, and whether or not they can do that. So I don't think it should stop us from passing what is currently the adjustment. So I'm going to point at you, screen unhealthy for the rest of us, but the corner right there at the end of the blue. Anyhow, again, because the fire chief isn't here or present, I don't think it's a question we can answer tonight anyway, but I just wanted to state that publicly as if we're thinking about the ability of fire trucks to go through there, and that is our main impetus for making this change. I didn't know if they ever needed to make that turn, or if they come up north or 9D and turn onto West Church that way.
So I do know that the fire chief looked at that particular intersection and covered all the bases, right? Because they're very thorough when they do it. So we can certainly ask him again, but I believe it was taken care of.
Yeah, Molly, I can follow up with him on your behalf. If you'd rather do it through the safety committee, I can put it on the agenda, or we can just handle it through an email to the chief directly.
Oh yeah, that could work, Ben. Yeah, I think whatever process works, just to make sure that intersection is workable for him. But as the mayor said, if he's already taken a look at it, and I know he has, then if he's fine with it, that's fine as well.
Okay, I'll follow up with you.
Any other discussion? All in favor of stop signs on South Bread and parking restrictions on West Church Street?
Mayor, this is
Oh,
a local law, so it's a roll call vote as well.
It is a roll call vote. All right. I will start at the Dan end and work our way
Yes.
around.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then there's, the next item is setting a public hearing. This is concerning administration and enforcement of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code and the State Energy Conservation Construction Code to incorporate recent updates. So can I get a motion and second to do that? This is setting a public hearing.
Motion?
Second.
And would we set the public hearing for, do we know the date?
Yep, we do have a date in the resolution. Hold on, I don't want Ben to get mad at me when I say the wrong date. I believe it's December
5th.
December 5th, I was going to say
Okay.
that. And Mayor, if I can give a little background, so I know this hasn't been workshopped yet, we're going a little out of order. That's because the state requires that we adopt these changes by December 31st. So to make sure that we're on that timeline, we want to set the public hearing. It will be on the workshop for the next workshop, which is this coming Monday, and then you'll have the public hearing. The reason for these changes is because the state updated the Uniform Code and the Energy Code in 2020. And in response to that, the state then had to update its regulations, which is Part 1203, which concerns enforcement of the Uniform Code and the Energy Code. And then that means we have to update our own local law, which sets forth the enforcement and administrative process for enforcing the Uniform Code and the Energy Code. So it all is a chain of events. All the changes in the law are mandates from the state. There's very few things that we had wiggle room on. And so as a result, I've reviewed this local law with Bruce Flowers to make sure that he's on the same page and to make sure that he didn't have any questions or concerns. So when you open up the local law, it's, a big law, but the changes are mandated by the state. We're not doing anything unique in this situation. In fact, there was a model law put out that we looked at and kind of incorporated and folded into the city's existing Chapter 119, I believe it is.
When we discuss this next week, Drew, are you prepared to kind of share what's different in the law, what's changing?
Oh yeah, we could go through all the changes, and you'll see it's very, like the state added more operating permits, and the state it's changed slightly what requires a building permit. So we can talk about all those changes and kind of go through what is an exact mandate and what's a recommendation and what we updated the code with. So we can go through line by line next week for sure. In fact, it'll be me that does that. I won't let Nick do that.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem.
Any questions? All right, so all in favor of setting a public hearing on December 5th for updating the fire prevention code and the state building code and the state energy conservation construction code? Did I got those right?
Well, you're updating Chapter 119 to incorporate changes to Part 1203 of the New York State regulations.
What she said.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? All right. Last one, in terms of local laws and resolutions, is a couple of amendments to this year's operating budget. The two that, and we went through these in workshop, so I'll look for a motion and a second to adopt two changes to the city's operating budget, and we'll discuss them as soon as we get a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Dan and Molly. So the two are for repair to fire equipment, and this was sort of in excess of what was expected in terms of repair in the line item, and so it's an increase of $15,000 that's transferred from the contingency fund. And then the other one is for Highway Department overtime, and that was mostly for paving of Main Street and ADA ramps, and that was about this is exactly $15,000 transferred to overtime for highway, and again taken from the contingency fund. So those are the two items. Any discussion? All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do I need a roll call?
No,
I don't.
That's okay.
All right. That takes care of our resolutions. And do we got to do minutes? Yep. So I need a motion and a second to adopt the minutes of November 7th.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so that's Ren and Dan. Any changes, corrections, additions to the minutes? All right, all in favor?
Sorry, and resolution number 133, I actually abstained from the vote on the amendment, though I did vote for the resolution as amended.
Okay.
I will correct that, republish.
So can we adopt the minutes as to be amended? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. That's a second opportunity for public comment. There was one left over from the in-person, that's Martin, and then we'll go see if there's anyone else in person, and then we'll go online. Thank you for waiting patiently.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name's Martin Fowler. I live in Ward 3. First, I want to say trans lives matter, and LGBTQIA people, and many of whom are friends of mine, deserve to live long, happy, beautiful lives, and they shouldn't be subject to violence at any time, nor should any of us. I love you all. I am here also to speak in support of the ban on gas infrastructure moving forward in new buildings. For me, this is a very personal issue. When I first moved here in 2017, I went for a hike up the mountain. I met someone who was a researcher in California who was measuring the change in the intensity of the heat of the fires that were occurring annually. I grew up in Northern California, and so it was interesting for him to tell me that wildfires, which are natural and normal and help manage undergrowth and sustain the ecology over time, they were becoming so hot and so intense that nothing was being left behind to continue growing anymore in certain areas. My parents still live out there. Also in 2018, my cousins lost their home in Paradise, California to the Camp Fire, which was the most destructive and deadly wildfire in California's history. So climate change has been pretty visceral for my family. Seeing the deadened hills of the Hudson Highlands this summer did not feel great in that context for me. So while I've been paying attention to this issue for a while, it feels more pertinent than ever that we make a change as soon as possible, using whatever tools we can. So I was very encouraged by last week's conversation. It was very nice to see the council throw out some creative ideas, look at what is possible. I especially appreciated Nick's enthusiasm on the issue, and he seems excited to find a way to make a smart choice to move forward with this. That being said, we have these strong mandates at the state level through the CLCPA, through other legislation that has been put forward but hasn't yet passed. And I think it would be similar to the Dan Scammer resolution, a great idea for Beacon to do everything it can to signal to the state that we believe in moving forward as quickly as possible to catch up when we are already so far behind. So thank you for considering that. I hope you do.
Thank you. Anyone else in person who didn't get a chance to speak the first time, I want to speak now? I've got two. Why don't you come on up? Three, okay. We'll take them in some order. Go ahead. Tell us your name, where you live. And you've got 3 minutes.
Nice to meet you. I'm Harry Titleman. I'm a resident in Ward 4 on South Street. First, I'd like to also just express support to the LGBTQ community. You are all loved. And I'd also like to speak in favor of the ban on new gas hookups. I'm an architectural designer and also just a general nerd when it comes to HVAC systems, and I was really delighted to hear about the geothermal system that was put in at the new fire department. Aside from the many negatives and climate reasons that we all know about and are obvious, I'd like to sort of just talk about the possibility and imagining a future. There's an initiative in Troy, New York, I believe, where they're putting in geothermal heating on a town level, and so this is where they drill into the ground and they just put a pipe of water under the ground, and that water under the ground is maintained at around 54 degrees, and that heat differential can offer cooling in the summer and heating in the winter, basically for free. There is a little bit of electricity that goes into it, but you're just circulating raw water, pretty much. So that's something that, I mean, in the future, the city could do. It would bring in money for the city, and I'm sure there are a number of other initiatives. Lastly, I'd also just like to say that I think one of the main reasons that we put gas in homes is because it's simply easier. It's kind of a lazy thing to do. And if there are policy initiatives that are going to force designers like myself to do a little bit of the extra work, they'll do it. I think homeowners want this on the whole. They just don't want it to be more expensive, and they need a little bit of a push. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you want to, I think there was someone who raised a hand in the back, and then Teresa.
Hello, my name is Michael Eaton. I'm from Rock Tavern, but I'm hoping to move here soonish. If you have any leads, I would take any. I'm here today to implore you to begin working on a gas-free bill that would ban the use of gas in all new construction. In my time as a young adult, the climate crisis has loomed in the back of my mind as a despair that because of decisions out of my control, we will lose our shared home of Earth. Over the past several months, as I've been learning and working with members of the community in Beacon Climate Action Now, I've been challenging that fear with a newfound hope. One which has been teaching me that if communities come together, it is possible for us to change humanity's course towards healing. That each small step, conversation, and period of dedicated time can lead to changes far greater than any individual can manage alone. This shift of perspective in recognizing how impactful our combined choices can be is why I believe that Beacon has an amazing opportunity to follow the lead of New York City and Ithaca and signal to the rest of the state where we should be heading, that being away from the use of methane gas in buildings, starting with new development. The vast majority of Beacon residents who we spoke to support this and recognize the urgency of reducing gas emissions. Particularly with the amount of development happening in Beacon, it is vital to ensure that these buildings will truly support current and future residents based on the research which shows how harmful gas is to those using it. Whether you are using a furnace or gas stove, it inherently leaks into your home and raises the risk of asthma, cancer, and many other conditions. It would also save developers and homeowners money in the long run. We have the research to prove that gas is immensely harmful to our environment and people. So to continue building around it when we have alternatives will display that the priorities of those serving us are misaligned. It's like saying to your child, no, I won't stop smoking in the house now, but maybe in 20 years when the damage is done and the alternatives are effortless, I'll think about it. It is nonsensical to wait any longer in the hopes we will make the change at the perfect time when the perfect time has passed. It is now, unfortunately, the urgent time where we both have to make the choices that should have been made and compensate for the ones that were. So I'm urging you to begin the transition by scheduling a public hearing to work on a bill that will ban indoor gas hookups in all new buildings. And it is crucial that it is a comprehensive ban, including all indoor uses such as stoves and heating. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Teresa?
Teresa Kraft. I too believe that we need to protect our natural resources, and like so many, I've lived my entire life being a steward of environmental preservation, protection, coming from a long line of independent thinkers who recycled what we used and grew a bulk of our food, so that concept is nothing new on my plate. We have no control over the major polluting countries. We are not the biggest offenders. We should start in our own backyard. Stop letting dogs squat on everybody's property and along the street, playgrounds, schoolyards, churchyards, and around historic buildings. Dog waste contains nitrogen and phosphorus, which can deplete oxygen. Beacon has been designated Tree City for the past 25 years. Perhaps we should double up on planting trees on vacant lots, create more green spaces and simple respite parks, and help reduce energy needs by keeping the city cooler and actively removing carbon from the atmosphere. It will help reduce air pollution and water pollution and be beneficial in reducing stormwater runoff. It is not feasible to be entirely electric, as our local and national electric grid could never handle the load, and we would be forever dependent on China. Rolling blackouts will be the new norm. In the same conversation, we should be talking about processed foods and electronics compromising people's health, as well as the toxic plastic toys, and household goods that are killing people. Not only gas, heat, and appliances impacting the health and safety of our neighbors. Electricity is not a one-solution fix. We need to have a variety of options regardless of the source. Proper installation and maintenance is also key to public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the physical public? This would be on the, yeah, this would be, yeah, you could do that. Yep.
So Kenya Gadsden, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. This has been a lot of work for us, and it's been positive work. So I thank Councilwoman Rhodes for opening the door for communication. I think that once you learn the ins and the outs, you can give your input, right? We can learn and grow together. But the gentleman that stood before you that you just swore in is like an example of growing your own. And so you all should be proud to see that some program that you are now supporting will now support people to come into the fields of police wherever they may be. And so it's going to be an opportunity for us to make that program whatever we want it to look like, and it can look just like Beacon. So thank you again.
Thanks, Kenya. So let me clarify. So if you spoke on the topic before, yeah, but I don't think there's anyone else in the public that in the physical public. So let's go to the virtual public. Ben, anyone else would like to speak?
Our first Zoom speaker is Arthur Kamens. And just to remind before I call on Arthur, if you'd like to speak for a general public comment on Zoom, you'll need to press the raise hand option. If you're calling in by phone, press *9. If you're on YouTube, you'll need to join us at beaconny.gov. First up is Arthur Kamens.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to compliment councilpersons Dan Army Blair and Paloma Wake for putting forth the proposed local law about banning gas in new buildings, and for Beacon Climate Action Now for organizing folks to show up. I don't have to go into all the details which so many people spoke about eloquently and in great detail. To me, this is a no-brainer. There's no reason not to do it, and all the reasons to do it. So I want to turn my attention for a moment to the discussion about policy with respect to the relative roles of the mayor and the city council. The last time a whole lot of folks showed up to pass a local law proposed by a council person, the mayor objected. And one of the objections was that he alone had the expertise to make judgments about this because he had the training as a lawyer. To me, that is entirely irrelevant. The mayor just happens to be a lawyer. Other mayors have not been. And the fact that the members of the city council are not lawyers is irrelevant also. In most public bodies, whether it's city, county, or state or national legislative bodies, members propose laws all the time. They certainly have the ability, like the mayor does, to consult with a lawyer about how that law is formed. And the city council certainly has the opportunity to debate those laws, to amend them and change them. And so to me, that objection is basically anti-democratic, and it smacks of an attempt to control rather than to increase democratic participation. The fact that the city council members, which was also members, have no fiduciary responsibility, to me is irrelevant. In fact, they just voted on a budget. To me, that's fiduciary responsibility. So that objection to me is bogus. And the other objection raised was that it somehow subverts the council's ability to debate and discuss things.
15 seconds.
Have been witness to many debates of that sort. And so I certainly hope that city council members will continue to take the initiative to pass local laws, and that there'll be no further objection.
Thank you so much.
Our next Zoom speaker is Vikas Ashoka.
Yes, hello again, Mayor, Council, and everyone in attendance. My name is Vikas Ashoka. I live in Ward 2 in Beacon. My public comment today is in support of the proposal for gas-free buildings in Beacon. I'm going to start with a quick story. I was a young kid in Arizona where I grew up, and I was diagnosed with asthma. And this impaired my ability to run and play. I remember I had to stop going to soccer as a result. What I found out recently, and I've been thinking a lot about lately, is that I found out that actually like medical professionals can tell that from my lungs that the evidence that I had asthma as a kid, even though I haven't had any symptoms since I was in middle school. And, you know, we had a gas stove growing up, so there's a chance that was the issue. 42% of children in homes with indoor gas appliances children in homes with indoor gas appliances have a 42% increased chance of asthma. But we'll never know. I mean, it's just like climate change, where there are so many different factors that cause the problems that we face that we'll never be able to account for one. Another one that I learned about in high school in my environmental science class was that the county that I grew up in had particulate matter pollution that was 10 times the rate that the EPA recommended was safe. And this was because there was a lot of construction going on in Maricopa County. And this was actually very easy to alleviate by construction companies. Basically, they spray some water on the ground when they move dirt, and that allows it so that they don't kick up a lot of dust. But no one enforced this rule. No one enforced the behavior that was necessary for construction companies to protect my health as a kid and to protect the health of everyone in that county. And I remember when I found out about this, exactly how I felt. I felt abandoned by my government. I felt that the government had sacrificed me only to line the pockets a little bit more full of the construction companies and the companies that profit off of hurting people in order to make an extra buck. We have the opportunity here in Beacon to take the other route. Unlike Arizona and Maricopa County, we have the choice to protect children instead of fossil fuel profiteers. And so I ask you all to pass a bill that prohibits all new buildings from all indoor burning of gas for our climate, for our children, and for our community. And then for a final comment, there was a comment made earlier.
15 seconds.
Data and having the data to pass legislation such as this. I would really encourage those of you who are curious about this to reach out to Beacon Climate Action now. In fact, your constituents who are members have reached out to you. And our fact sheets and our data has come from NYSERDA, the Environmental Protection Agency, the National Institutes of Health, the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Rocky Mountain Institute, and others. And I am still waiting to hear data from the other side. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Ben?
Yep, our next hand raised is Emily Skydell. And go ahead, Emily.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, my name is Emily Skydell. I'm the senior organizer for Food and Water Watch in the Hudson Valley. I'd like to first just say thanks to everyone who spoke today on this important issue around banning gas in new homes and buildings. It's so important for local communities to speak out. For those who don't know, Food and Water Watch is a national organization. We led the fight to ban fracking in New York, and that's really how I got my start. I was living up in Binghamton, where they were going to begin fracking back in 2012. And it sort of opened my eyes to the fossil fuel industry and what it does to people's health and communities that it operates in, and that ever since we banned fracking, the fight turned to fossil fuel infrastructure. And I think here in Beacon, everyone knows that very, clearly because of what happened with the Dan Scammer proposal. the amount of energy that went into stopping that was immense, and it really stemmed from the grassroots, and that's the reason that we were able to stop it. And I really, thank you, Mayor Lee, for you spoke about that a little bit earlier. I'd really like to thank you and the council for your efforts on Dan Scammer. I know it wasn't an easy decision to make to come out against Dan Scammer, but you were the first municipality in the EJ zone of the Dan Scammer power plant to say no and say you didn't want it. And that led to over 20 municipalities passing similar resolutions and eventually us winning and the DEC and the governor rejecting that plan. So Food and Water Watch sees this as the next clear step for the region. With more gas hookups comes more pipelines cutting through the community, transporting gas. It creates more of a demand for gas. It creates more fuel, so to speak, for the fossil fuel industry to think of new ways to embed themselves in our community. We need to start the process of electrification. Really, we needed to start it yesterday. The technology is here. This is the lowest hanging fruit. There's absolutely no need at this stage for new homes and buildings to use gas. And frankly, the city of the Beacon can do it. There's no need to get more. Yeah, there's no need to get more data. Like Vikas had just said, we have plenty of research and data for you. Your job is to protect the people of your community and listen to the needs of the community. And this is a community that can do this and should do this, and it would send a tremendous message to the state that we're ready. So we absolutely need Beacon to be a leader on this. And the state continues to discuss these ideas and move it through its various agencies and bureaucracies, but it's actually individual municipalities that can really push them and create that kind of demand and that kind of incentive for them to move along and move towards their goals, which they are in no way close to reaching. We are at 5% wind and solar in New York State, despite the fact that we have very, very ambitious climate goals. So Beacon needs to act. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next hand raised is Gina Fletcher.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Gina Pearl Fletcher. I am in support of gas-free buildings. I'm a resident of Ward 4 with my partner, surrounded by neighbors of all ages. A mix of generational occupancy that is in contact with natural gas every day. Kids and elders, and really anyone who doesn't want health-related issues due to gas hookups in buildings, we should really be considering electrification instead of natural gas. Not only does it assist with Beacon to lead in the transition to decarbonizing the city's infrastructure, but it is an investment to committing to the 2019 New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, a mandate to reduce greenhouse gases, which natural gas is, and protects our existing and future livelihoods. The potential to provide training and growth to infrastructure development and promote the city's care about the well-being of its residents and many visitors each year. Let's lean into this opportunity and momentum for healthier solutions for our future selves and neighbors. Let's do this care work, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
All right, our next hand raised is Bill Irwin. Bill, go ahead.
Sorry, I was muted. In addition to everything that's already been said, one additional positive about the gas ban proposal is that it'll help end the disastrous process of fracking that has torn apart so many communities in this country, corrupted local and state governments, and poisoned and destroyed massive amounts of water in and around those communities. Every fracking wellhead uses an average of 4 million gallons of water, much of which is re-injected into the ground, never to be seen again. If Beacon adopts a gas-free policy, it will also be supporting healthy communities all around the country as this movement gathers steam and we move toward a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Matt Casey. Matt, would you like to speak? Looks like Matt has lowered his hand. There's no further hands raised at this time.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ren and George, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you all so much. Have a good evening.
Rec-